Hello from the Faroe Islands. Wow, that is a little place. What, in your opinion, is the greatest tech invention ever made and why? All the best. Oh, I've been asked this question before. It's so hard. I go back and forth. I really do. I mean, how far back do you want to go? Do you want to talk about the automobile? You know, do you want to talk about the printing? I mean, how philosophical? I don't think he's asking a question in that framework. I think he's talking more modern times, our vision of tech now. And even there, I have problems where I go between, like, I don't think the iPhone happens without the Walkman.
Right.
Which is a weird gap because, and the reason I say that is because I don't think the iPod happens without the Walkman. It's like all of these steps along the way. It's like, which is the most disruptive, but then also which one for its time was the most difficult to achieve. It's like a lot of ways to look at this. In my lifetime, it's just hard to go against the iPhone. It's hard to not say the iPhone because it's just the impact, the lasting impact, the way that it has altered and shifted all of our existences. Now, you could say smartphone. You don't have to say iPhone, but it's really the original iPhone that led to our modern version of what a smartphone is. Because before that, and I've said this before, I mean, it was like Blackberries and the Palm Treo and no real comprehensive app stores and terrible cameras, and it just the screens didn't operate in the same fashion. When you first felt the capacitive touchscreen on the original iPhone, you were like, oh, everything's about to change. Okay, cool. Everything is different now. Like, we have to reconfigure our brains to deal with the implications of this new technology and the fact that we're always going to be connected now and that we're always going to have a responsive web browser, full-fledged web browser. Like, when we first saw pinch to zoom, it was like, that's how it's going to work. That's how you're going to have the web in your pocket. Connectivity, like full-on connectivity, not just a phone call, not just a message, but like everything that's on the internet in your pocket. So I feel like if you're looking for a very specific product, I'm going to go with the iPhone, though a lot of other products to me are significant. Nintendo, the Walkman. I have a thing for some of those early Japanese gadgets that were weird and precursors to the smartphone, in my opinion. But this one here, it just disrupted everything. It's hard to think about. You know, we're on the cusp right now of the Raptors going to the NBA Finals. And it's the first team since 93 when the Blue Jays did it here in Toronto. It's a very rare thing. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at the date, and I'm realizing how much time has passed. I was a kid when that happened. And you're talking about, like 30 years ago almost, something like this. And then you look at this iPhone announcement, you try to think about when the next announcement is going to happen on the same scale as this iPhone. You try to imagine, what is that product going to be that's going to carry with it similar implications now that we can look back in retrospect? What is that thing that's going to be so substantial and shift our culture in the same direction that the smartphone has? It's really hard to envision. Some might say the electric or autonomous vehicle. I mean, Elon Musk gets up on stage just like Steve Jobs did here, and he walks around and tells you about how he's saving the planet and all the rest of it. And the electric vehicle, obviously very innovative, very cool, obviously disruptive as well. Could change the landscape in many different ways. Employment landscape, how safe the roads are with autonomous driving, the planet from an environmental perspective, depending on where you stand on that. He's working on the shingles for the house, the roof, the solar roof, a new type of solar panel. It remains to be seen. It's hard. It's easier to look back and see those things and know. Because what was special about the mobile device, the smartphone, was that it was such it had such a behavioral component to it, a behavioral change component, which then had this maybe unexpected cultural impact. Like I remember hearing or reading something about how Steve Jobs always wanted to view the phone as a tool, an extension, something working for the human, so that the human interacting with it could get their thing done more effectively and then move on with life. Like apparently his position wasn't that you should be staring at this thing and addicted to it and on it all day. So maybe even the creator behind it couldn't necessarily or didn't want to necessarily envision the future in which the smartphone has granted us. Now, I'm not being pessimistic here. I think human beings will figure a lot of things out. So I'm not saying that it's had a negative impact. I don't think that at all. It's connected a lot of people. It's changed the world in many positive ways. But it's like it was just such a shift, seismic shift. Always on, connected humans effectively changed our network as people, as nodes in a giant network. And what is the next item that could potentially do the same thing? I don't think it's actually the electric car. I think it's probably some sort of bionic thing, some sort of, you talked about an implant in a previous video. Maybe it's this idea of the thing that the smartphone is without the phone. That level of connectivity. I'm scared of it. Or maybe it's in AI. Maybe it's when we get to this place of AI assuming enough human tasks where we can really shut ourselves off to a great degree and focus on other things. Maybe it's somewhere in that department. But anyhow, up until this point, based on my lifespan and the way that I'm interpreting the question, I'm going to go with this device right here.